All set? Call this meeting order. Brian, you'll lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to our town board meeting. We have some guests here. Gabe Ballinger, who is going for his Eagle Scout project, is here to observe. Ben Driscoll is going to talk about Catholic Charities, also Ward 5 supervisor from the city of Glens Falls. And then Casey Mastro is here to talk about LED streetlights. Welcome everybody. And so we have a pretty full agenda tonight, so we'll get right on going. The first order of business is approve the minutes of the March 9th, 2020 board meeting.
I'll make it.
Motion by Brian, second by John to approve the minutes, subject to correction. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we'll go right into the town clerk's report.
The monthly report for March 2022. Fireworks of $50, and marriage license $35.
Gotta turn me on here. Clerk fees, faxes and photocopies of $8.50. Public health fees of $324. Landfill fees and punch cards, $14,778. Short-term rentals, $300. Dog licensing fees, $208. Building permits, $131.50, bringing the total local shares remitted of $15,835.
Supervisor's report, total monies on hand tonight, $3,509,010.58. Assessor's report.
Assessors for April. Finalization of the 2022 tentative assessment roll due on out May 1st is nearing completion. Sales, new buildings, and assessment changes are in the process of being reviewed prior to submission to the county for publication later this month. Required by section 501 real property tax law, inventory of the town's parcels for the 2022 roll was available for review on March 28th. Said date was posted in the legal notices section of the local newspaper, Post-Star, March 9th and 16th. As in the past, no one inquired about their property records. Directly submitted Greg Heinberg.
Justice.
Justice report for April. Judge Fisk heard 55 cases, collected fines of $4,765, fees of $234, and surcharges of $2,235. Judge Perillo heard 57 cases, collected fines of $3,332. There are no fees. Surcharges were $1,058. Total new cases in February were 97. Total dollars received in March, $11,624. Town share in January, $10,576. Town share for February, $11,089.
Okay, Brian, planning.
There were 5 land use and development permits issued the month of March. On April 5th, the planning board reviewed and approved a site plan application, North Country Ministries, to convert the Presbyterian Church house on Stuart Farrar to the new use of retail service for their furniture program. In regards to the open development process for 9 Browns Court, Patty is waiting for information from Mr. Lagan for the planning board's review so they can make recommendations to the town board. Zoning board does not have a meeting this month. We're not going to.
Okay. Dog control officer, he had four different calls this past month and was fairly busy, but he's resolved all his issues. So that was a busy month for Brett. He does an excellent job. Enforcement.
Short-term rental application was returned to the 7 Library Admin. They were missing information. Fireworks permit was issued for Skylanders in New York for a commercial display on May 21st at the Lodge in Echo Lake. Warren County Sheriff was notified of the permit. Notified the fire company of all burning permits for the month of March. Met with the town contractor to clean up 32 Alden Avenue front porch. Also discussed with dog warden Moulton the concerns for the dog and address. Received correspondence from the EPA regarding a subdivision of lots 224-14 and 224-22. Fireworks permit was issued to Santora's Fireworks for a commercial fireworks display on April 23rd at the Lodge Echo Lake. Warren County Sheriff was notified of the permit. Discussed with the owner of Main Street Business about parking on the sidewalk. He said that he would comply, not parking on the sidewalk. Sent notice to the owner of 86 Library Avenue regarding rubbish and furniture on the property. A complaint for 840 Spring River Road from the Sheriff's Department. The health officer was called. After a site visit, the health officer stated that the house would be condemned, and a letter is to follow to the town board for their action. Notice was sent to the owner of 25 Karen Street regarding sale of firewood business on the property. The property is being monitored. Received and discussed several phone calls and correspondence with town attorneys regarding Brown Court. The property is being developed off Brown Court, which is landlocked. Sent a warning notice to the owner of 7 Oak Street for the removal and replacement of ports, also the installation of a fence without a permit. Also notified Warren County Building Code to the activity on the property. Checked and entered 3885 Main Street. The property is not secure and the interior is in shambles. The property owner was sent a warning notice. Sent a warning notice to 22 Echo Lane for rubbish and unregistered vehicles on the property.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
What
Beautiful.
address at Echo Lane? 21?
22.
Beautification.
Teresa Whalen, everyone hear me?
No.
Okay.
It looks great. I think so. I assume so.
Teresa Whalen,
Is it on?
Arbor Day tree planting. We will have the Arbor Day tree planting presentation and dedication to Charles Chip Webster on Saturday, May 21st at 10 a.m. at the wastewater treatment plant across the road inside the chain link fence from the solar panel array. Maren Stoddard from Soil and Water, Tracy Benoit, and I met to select the location, and the town will dig a hole. Soil and Water are donating a bald and burlap sugar maple. Warrensburg Beautification will be donating the plaque dedicating the tree in memory of Chip. Historic Homeowners Tax Credit Workshop. Warrensburg Beautification and the Warrensburg Historical Society will be partnering with Adirondack Architectural Heritage to present an historic homeowners state tax credit workshop on April 28th at 7 p.m. via Zoom in the community room at Richards Library. People can also view from their own devices. The program is being offered by the State Office of Historic Preservation to help those who own properties listed on the national and state registers of historic places make repairs to their homes. There is also an historic commercial tax credit program with both state and federal income tax credits that will be mentioned. Aaron Tobin, former Vice President of the New York State Preservation League and now Executive Director of ARCH, will facilitate the Zoom. This presentation was to be held 2 years ago in person, but things were put on hold because of the pandemic. Glad we can offer this information now and have it accessible to all. And I sent you guys the web links.
Highway.
Month of March, we've been very busy. Early March snowstorms on March 2nd, the 3rd, 1 inch on the 9th. We also had a 7-inch snowstorm on the 12th. They've all worked very hard in the shop on the equipment and are sweeping for the spring, getting all that ready to go. Installed the beaver grates in our culverts, and they've continued to patch potholes. With nice weather, in the second half of March, we'll be done sweeping throughout the town. I've got a good jump on all of the town sweeping. We'll be doing leaf and brush cleanup May 16th through the 19th, and May 23rd through the 26th. We'll not do another pickup after these dates until the fall in October.
Okay, landfill.
Yeah, landfill. Let's see, to date, we are still back $3,741 and change. We were raising a few fees with tires and whatnot. It was something it had to do with inflation and whatnot, and we're doing well. Let's take care of it. It looks good too up there. The landfills, transfer stations, they're doing a nice job.
Okay, economic development.
The WEDC met on 4/4 and approved the minutes of the previous meeting. The ongoing discussion regarding CDBG grant application and the work involved continues. The committee had recently had a presentation from a company, Flatley Reed, a grant writing firm that has done work for other communities in the region. It is our desire to move forward with this work as there's a tremendous amount of research to be done and to be ready for the submission. It's going to come up later in the meeting based on something Mr. McGarity and I discussed previously, that the RFP will go out. We continue to we continue to explore the proper wording for an RFQ with regard to moving forward on the potential project at the Old Town Garage property. We are reviewing wording from other communities in an effort to write our own RFQ to find the best developer to work with to bring this vision of a 50-unit senior housing building to this location. Please, Teresa just spoke about the Adirondack Architectural Heritage thing, which I think is important. The committee has initiated a discussion on strategic planning, which has encompassed a broad range of topics, including the need for codes regarding solar use, housing grants, water river development, and the feasibility of establishing a senior shuttle and/or tourism shuttle. And it is our interest to prioritize the list and focus on the most important issues and look to get them to completion. Thank you.
Okay. Historian.
I'll talk loud.
Okay.
Okay. On March 13th, I was doing the Thurman Maple Days tours, and on my second stop, I fell and broke my arm.
That's not
Did not go to work on either the 16th or the 17th, but with drivers have been able to continue the rest of the month into this month. Historian visitors, meetings and inquiries, Sarah came in to work on her Cleveland and Morehouse families, Economic Development Committee. I met with the Economic Development Committee. Warrensburg visitors, etc., Warrensburg Historical Society meeting, town board meeting. Historian projects. Last month I mentioned that I've been taking large files and creating notebooks to make room for more in my file cabinets because I have no more room for more file cabinets and the file cabinets are full. This month we have done the Adirondack Hotel / Colonial Arms and the Emerson Sawmill. I continue to file information on COVID and the filing of daily current events along with Thurman items still needing filing. Museum projects. I continue working one day a month at the museum until it gets warmer so that we do not have to heat the museum as much. My normal day is Thursday, so I have been using that day at my historian's office, which has helped me to catch up with most of the Thurman collection and to work on the above-mentioned notebooks. Deaths during the month of March: Edward Murphy Jr., Joseph M. Barlow, Harry Emerson Fish, Alvin Millington Jr. I understand of Mr. Parker, but I don't know who that was. Sarah told me he was a local person. Charles Frederick Roberts and Thomas Drain. Thank you. Sure. Okay, thanks. Office hours, 37 3/4, museum hours, 7, volunteers, Robin Hanson, 30 hours, Charbavona, 6, Wendy Peluso, 5, Darlene Gunther, 5.5. And then I'd also like to bring up, which you approved last month, which was going to be Floyd Bennett, an annual Floyd Bennett Day, and we hadn't come up with a date as yet. The choices were his birth date, his death date, the day he was given the Medal of Honor, but the one we chose was May 9th, which is the day he flew Admiral Byrd to the North Pole. So we may not be doing anything this year because it's awfully close, but from now on, we will be having an annual. Some of the reasons that we have chosen Floyd, number one, he theoretically was born here. And he was, 2 airports have been named for him, Floyd Bennett Field in New York City and Floyd Bennett Memorial Airport in Queensbury. There's a destroyer, the USS Bennett. Admiral Byrd named his plane the Floyd Bennett, which is on display at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. We have a Floyd Bennett Park in Warrensburg. Many people have no idea why it's named Floyd Bennett. Hopefully we'll let them know soon. PS 203 in New York City is named after Floyd Bennett, and the Bennett platform in Antarctica is named in his honor. So hopefully the students in school will all learn, and they'll go home and tell their parents, and eventually everyone in Warrensburg will know who Floyd Bennett was.
Thank you, Cindy. Historian and
Museum
Museum.
director,
Yeah.
Laura Moore. So under software, I have the website is now accepting online payments for book sales and membership, which is pretty exciting. We haven't had that in the past. Now we're able to sell books online. And then in regards to meetings, I've attended the Historical Society meeting. Exciting news that we returned from the Adirondack Experience, which is the Adirondack Museum. They returned our World War II posters, and we are now looking for a way to display that information, whether that's at the school or at the museum or other entities within the community. Our security cameras were installed over the past few weeks, which I'm excited, and thank you very much for doing that. Mike Colvin, under committees, we're updating the museum handbook. We have looking forward to a volunteer event date, looking for volunteers. We will still continue to open in May. That's our target date at this point. I fielded phone calls from Teresa Stone. She has, they believe it's her father, Ralph Joseph Stone, would like to donate a whisk doll. Alice Needham has a Kenyon Town Store Journal and DH Railroad Bulletins. And then Kim Walton is writing a book that includes activities of Pearl Rice. And we still hope to hold a chicken barbecue fundraiser potentially in September. And then our golf, first annual golf and Sticky Wicket event would be August 28th at Cronin's. And I still have on the schedule a author visit. She wrote The Third Mrs. Galloway. This is author Deidre Sinat. She's out of Utica. And additional good news is the Warrensburg Elementary School is doing In the Zone again. So they're looking for ways to connect with the museum, and so we're sending something for them.
Thank you. Parks and Rec.
Parks and Recreation, ball fields are being prepped for Little League. The pocket cemeteries are just about completed for spring cleanup. We've also been able to start cleaning the parks and the beach for the spring. Illinois. Water and sewer good?
Yep.
Sewer for April. 2 sand filters, airlifts were taken to Anderson Welding to be rebuilt. Several aeration chains had to be repaired. The meeting with Cedarwood Engineering, moving forward with the dredging the lagoon. We had pump station B pumped out, grease blanket, rags removed. Keep going. Water report for April, 2 meters were reinstalled, the water turned on. We turned the water off at 2 homes for repairs and 1 frost plate was repaired. Meters were read on March 24th, and we had been checking a few high usages on March 30th. We had our call row 6 well drillings to put the well pump and motor after we discovered it failed. A new motor and pump were ordered and should be here in several weeks.
Okay. On the youth front, the summer recreation program will run from July 11th through August 18th. That program is going to change this year. We're partnering with the school system. It'll be part athletics and recreation. The other part will be learning for the kids. It'll be grades K through 2 and then 2 through 6. And then at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, for 4 days a week, we'll be doing swim lessons at Echo Lake. So we're still working on this. We'll have the recreation and sports program, and then the teaching part of it will be done in the elementary school. And once we get it all set up, we'll get it out. We will be hiring counselors like we do every year, and we will have a abbreviated arts and crafts program also along with the sports. So we're excited about that. It's something that the new superintendent wanted to do, and I believe it's going to be great for all the kids in town. So we're happy about that. So stay tuned on that. Communications, I got a notice from the New York State Office of Temporary and Disabilities Assistance about participation in the low-income household water assistance program. That's a program that the state has started that people who can't pay their sewer water rents, the state will cover them for us, and we have signed up for that because we already do deposits from the state of New York. I think we've only had one person take advantage of it, but we'll we have the information available for anybody who needs help with their water and sewer. We did file our registration for our solid waste management facility at the landfill, and that all went very smoothly. And I'd like to thank our landfill people. We have one person who runs that center up there. He does it all by himself. He also takes care of all the paperwork with the state of New York. And then we were having trouble getting rid of tires, and Jeremy went out and found somebody to take our tires. And we have a slight increase in what it's costing us to get rid of them, so we're passing that on to the people who leave their tires there. But that's a great run facility. Also, I received a letter from Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District about the new county multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. That's something we have to work on. We have to get our application in to Soil and Water by June. And that plan deals with a lot of hazards. And you take a good look at your community and see where your problems may lie. And then we'll file the proper paperwork with Warren County Soil and Water. And yesterday I received a letter from Assemblyman Matt Simpson about grant opportunities administered by the Northern Border Regional Commission. We'll take a look at that. It's a short window of time to get an application in, but I'll read up on it in the next couple of days to see if there's anything that we could apply for grants there for the Northern Border. I know they have given out some grants in this area recently. Next up, we have also signed our professional services contract with Labella Associates. It's the formerly Chazen Companies to take on the master plan update. I'll ask anybody who's interested, please send me your resume to my office, and we're going to keep the initial group to a small, maybe 6 or 8 people. So if you're interested in serving on the group, please send your names into my office so we can formulate a committee, and they'll go right to work on that. Next up, Mr. Driscoll. Mr. Ben Driscoll of Catholic Charities would like to talk about his program. And he has some federal programs, SNAP, and other federal programs available to students, senior citizens, and the general public. So Ben, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Garrity. I will sit. Normally I stand, but for people to hear me both in person and online. My name is Ben Driscoll. I'm employed by Saratoga, Warren, and Washington Counties Catholic Charities with our main office in Saratoga Springs, our Warren, Washington County office at 35 Broad Street in the city of Glens Falls. This evening is the 4th presentation that I've done on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, formerly called food stamps. Last night I was in Hague, the night before in Lake George, and last month I was in the town of Queensbury, and I have scheduled appointments to visit each municipality, as I did in 2019, to share information about the program. Am I echoing? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
That's it.
So I'm sharing information about the federal SNAP program. In Warren County, approximately 3,000 different households receive SNAP benefits a year. That represents about 7,000 individuals. Of that 7,000 individuals, which represents approximately 11% of the county's population, about 40% of those individuals are 16 years of age and younger. So vulnerable children and youth who haven't started their work careers yet. Another 25 to 30% are senior citizens, 60 years of age and above. So almost 2/3 of the individuals who receive SNAP benefits are either very young or my age and older. My job is not, I'm not an employee of the Warren County Department of Social Services, although I do collaborate with them and work with their fine staff. My job is to identify and educate and inform people who may feel that they're not eligible for it or not aware that it's available to them. I work with them on giving them the income guidelines, talk about their particular situations, not what they heard on the street. SNAP isn't welfare. Each of us have paid into that system our entire lives. When they take money out of our paychecks, we're supporting hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of federal programs, that being one of them. Earlier, you talked about the need to work with your school district. It's been shown nationwide that a child who has an adequate diet does better in school. An adult does better in the workplace, and a senior citizen is more self-sufficient and less reliant on family members and the public. They're healthier. They don't have to go to the doctor's offices often, and God forbid they don't spend nights at the hospital. The minimum that an individual can receive each month is $20. The maximum at this point is $250, depending on your resources as well as your housing cost. And then for some people, their doctor's costs, they're eligible for anything in between that. There are people who cheat the system, commit fraud. Generally, 99% of those people are caught. You'll see their picture in the Post-Star. And my focus has always been on trying to identify those families who are eligible for it. It's a help up, not a handout. I also cooperatively share information about school breakfast and lunch programs for seniors, as well as the home energy assistance program, which is happens during the winter months. There's also a program for air conditioning during the summer months that a lot of people aren't aware of. So again, my job is to educate and inform. One way that I do that is by speaking with elected officials, business leaders, faith-based organizations, other not-for-profits. I collaborate quite a bit with North Country Ministries and their staff up there. I do home visits. I have a good response from residents of Warrensburg and other communities, neighboring communities in Warren County. I'm accessible. I can be contacted by telephone, by email. And again, my other job is working with Supervisor Garrity, and I see a couple of other of my colleagues here this evening. Down at Warren County, I represent the 5th Ward in the city of Glens Falls. That includes Glens Falls Hospital, the post office, and wraps right around to the Hudson River and the feeder canal. I'm in my 5th year as serving on the Warren County Board of Supervisors. Previous to that, with a few years in between, I served 8 years on the Glens Falls Common Council, representing the same ward. Again, I'm happy to see so many people that I know here this evening and have had the opportunity to work with in the past. And I've shared some information. I'm always able to get that information to people. If you have any questions this evening or in the future, please get in touch with me.
Yeah, one thing, Ben, I failed to mention in the summer rec program we're doing, we're serving breakfast and lunch to the kids. So I think that's very important when you mentioned the meal, like getting a good lunch and breakfast to start the day. So I appreciate it. And Ben does stop in every time he's up here visiting North Country Ministries, just to check in on us to see how we're doing. And we appreciate that. It's a great service you provide.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions for Ben? I get him to hang around. I told Tom I'd have you home by 8 o'clock. So. But anyways, thanks, Ben. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
And there were some handouts on the table. Next presentation will be Smart Street Lighting New York, and I believe Casey Mastro's here. Casey came to us in what, 2019?
I think it might have been that
So,
around there.
when COVID hit, we put this project on hold, but looking at the numbers now, we feel that this is potential for some savings, and it's maybe time to look at it. And like I told the poet 2 months ago, our last street lighting bill, the one bill was $10,000. If we could save 50% on these streetlights in the future, I think it's the right way to go. So Casey, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Casey Mastro. I'm the Senior Key Account Executive for the Power Authority, the New York Power Authority, living and working out of Ithaca, New York. So I'm very grateful to be here. As Supervisor Garrity had mentioned, we've been working on this moment for about 2 years getting here. And it's been a hard, I think, slog for everybody the last handful of years. So I can't tell you how grateful I am to put some faces to some names. And I want to also say congratulations to the young man going for his Eagle Scout. That is a huge achievement. So I am here representing the Power Authority. Many folks have a very vague idea of what it is that the Power Authority does in and around other areas where there's not a hydroelectric plant, right? So the Power Authority since 1930s has been generating and transmitting hydroelectric power across the state. In that practice, we have created a business unit that I represent called Clean Energy Solutions. And we represent the local governments and local entities in the state of New York on your behalf to make data-based, smart energy decisions, right? So the group that I represent works as a not-for-profit, right? I think that's really important because NYPA has no financial skin in the game on these types of energy efficiency saving projects. Our goal is to work with every public entity that we can, whether it's local governments, SUNY campuses, not-for-profit hospitals, and be able, from an engineering and design standpoint, provide you data to make the energy decisions that are smart for each individual local government, right? And street lighting has been near to the top of that list since about 2017. Right after that, New York State put forth this very large endeavor called the Smart Street Lighting New York program. Since then, we've changed over about 300,000 streetlights under NYPA's direct management all across the state. I've managed about 137 of those projects. It was essentially all we were doing for about 2 years because it is such a immediate impact to operational savings for local governments. I did put together a utility analysis for review. I'm an engineer by education. I like to do as much of the utility analysis as possible so I can actually be here and speak fluently about what it is that we're talking about. The energy savings that we're estimating on this project is just under $50,000 a year. I found in my travels across the state, most folks budget for their utilities, street lighting included, and don't actually have any real concrete idea of what it is they're paying and where that money is going. And so these types of analyses are very eye-opening. And I say that because of the $80-something thousand a year you spend, only about $33,000 of that is energy. The other, 46,000 roughly, 43,000 roughly, is in what's called a facilities charge. It's essentially a pass-through cost from the utility in the form of a lease, right? Long-term lease, because the utilities own the infrastructure. And that also includes maintenance. And so imagine the eye-opening experiences some, clerks or supervisors or mayors have had when I sit down with them and we go over a bill and I say, look, you spend $80,000 a year and 45,000 of that is like the worst car lease you could possibly imagine for decades. The money goes to nowhere. The vast minority of what is being spent is actually in energy. And so the reason that I'm here is because the Power Authority, because of that fact, we strongly represent the notion of proactively taking ownership of these assets and with the help of the Power Authority at no money down, obviously, to get out from underneath that model. and to proactively own these assets and enter into a maintenance contract at a fraction of the cost. We have been doing this, like I said, across hundreds of local governments in the state of New York because it makes sense to do so. Because we're talking about ownership, that allows local governments like Warrensburg the opportunity to take it a step further, and I've included this in my analysis, to include something called digital asset management. So right now, what you have on all the 495 National Grid-owned lights in the town, these little nodes, screw-in 7-pin nodes, and they're dawn to dusk. Right? They go on at night, they go turn off in the morning, and that's about it. That is the past. What is the present and the future is the ability to digitize your system through a user interface on a computer or a smartphone and be able to change each individual light fixture, the power output to each individual light, and control how much energy you're actually using. And what's going to follow is going through the Public Service Commission is going to be something called a billable tariff. Right? So right now you're based on, nobody dives into street lighting utility tariffs except me, because it's boring as all get out, but it's important to know how you're being billed. Most folks do not know how they're being billed. And that really means everything, right? There's a lot of information in those bills. In fact, National Grid is the most transparent out of all the investor-owned utilities, in my opinion. When you look at that bill, it tells you a lot. Most people just don't know what it is that they're looking at. And so the reason a billable tariff is important is because, like any other control system, you should be able to only be charged for what you're using, not some flat rate like is being charged now. And so that is in this request for this project. It's not mandatory by any means. You can keep photocells if you like. We've had a minority of folks that have not necessarily seen the value in wanting to have control over their assets. But I do think that there's value in the additional energy savings that will come in the future when you enter into a billable dimming tariff in a year or two, or even 3. You know, these are 25-year assets, right? So this is a 25-year project, right? Essentially once in a 25 to 30-year decision, and it should be done well. And what I mean by that is based on an engineering standard, right? So you do not have to do a project like this through an entity like the Power Authority. You can enter into an agreement with your utility, and they will maintain ownership of those assets. The problem, in my engineering opinion, is that there won't be a properly designed system at the end of the day. This is really a health and safety project that has a ton of energy savings. And the reason that I say health and safety is because streetlights are really meant for the safety of the pedestrians walking around the town of Warrensburg. Right? Headlights on cars are for the folks driving, but safety is our number one issue, right? So a town like this should be illuminated properly, right? And that's done by a standard. It's called the RP 188 standard, and it's called an IES standard. And when you enter into a project where the assets are still owned by the utility, that's not happening, right? So any old LED that goes up, frankly, isn't the proper way to do a project like this. You know, these lights are very specifically distanced apart. They're very specifically elevated above the ground, and you should have a proper amount of illumination on the ground so that the people walking around the town of Warrensburg are as safe as possible, right? So that's what we aim to do. And my request this evening is to have the town pass resolution for the LED upgrade and also our maintenance program. The reason that I mentioned the maintenance program is because right now the utilities own the assets, and you folks have not had to worry about how these lights are maintained. And frankly, nobody wants to be in the street lighting pole game. Nobody wants to worry. No one in public works that I know of wants to worry about how to now maintain 495 fixtures. So we heard local governments state this several years ago, and we created a street lighting maintenance program, which is a part of this entire package that I'm suggesting. Right now, like I said, you spend $44,299.86 roughly in facilities charges, which also includes maintenance. The Power Authority's competitively bid maintenance program, in fact, everything we do is competitively bid. That's important that you should know that we, as a state entity, do all the procurement on behalf of local governments. So you don't have to do an RFP. You don't have to worry about any of that because the Power Authority has statutory authority to do that on behalf of all public entities in the state. So we've procured materials and labor and engineering and maintenance on your behalf, right? So there's a time and a cost to that you don't have to worry about. So like I said, your facilities charges are just about $45,000 a year. Our maintenance contract is $20 a fixture annually. It's $9,900. That is just the facilities charges savings, not including the $23,000 in energy savings we're suggesting. Again, this is just from preliminary engineering analysis by me utilizing your bills, right? We haven't even done the design yet. I have a significant amount of fluff, for lack of a better technical word, in this analysis, including contingency, right? And that's because we don't really know the condition of your assets right now, right? So it's important to be able to work, I think, with an entity like the Power Authority or anyone really who has the expertise and the history to understand, where the pitfalls would be in a project like this. You have to have things like contingency to understand, okay, well, we have to not just change out LED fixtures here, but what are the conditions of the fuses and the wiring and the arms, right? And all of these other things, which the goal is, when the design is done, is that this project is 10 to 15% or more less expensive than what I'm conservatively estimating here. That's the goal. That's a good relationship. NYPA is here about a relationship. I'm not frankly interested in shaking hands and having a single LED project and then I go on my way and we never have another energy discussion again. We're more interested in not putting forth bare bones numbers up front so that you're unhappy 5 change orders down the line and things are more expensive. It should be the other way around. And so I'm showing things like, $198,000 in potential purchase of assets. That's $400 a fixture I'm estimating, when in reality, in 2016, I believe you received notification from National Grid that the net book value of these assets was more like $136 a fixture. So because that information is so old, I didn't use it. I conservatively used $400 a fixture, but you get an idea of, that's like 67 grand. So that's an immediate $130,000 reduction just from what I'm showing here. And that's at 3% municipal bond, which for most folks I know can probably bond cheaper than that, right? So there's a lot of ability here for this project to be much more cost effective to the folks here, the taxpayers in the town of Warrensburg than what I'm even suggesting. But it's still, in our opinion, a very, very good project. Lighting projects in general are immediate impact from day one. The moment you sign ownership over, the Public Service Commission approves the ownership, your utility bills are going to drop by 65% because those facilities charges go to almost zero, right? You'll pay up $1.64 pole lease agreement to put then your assets on the National Grid owned poles as assumed in opposition to the $44,000 you're paying now. Right? So that's just the day you sign ownership. That doesn't even include as the LEDs go in and you begin seeing reductions in your energy use and associated savings. So I'm very grateful to be here to be able to talk about this with you folks and for the folks of Warrensburg to hear about this opportunity. And I know that you folks have been working to try to get me here for 2 years, and I'm just so grateful to be able to present this. Mr. Alexander has been fantastic in communicating with me for a long time about this, and has been on board with getting me here. So aside from going line by line through my entire analysis, I mean, in general, we're talking about a project here where I'm estimating annual savings to be about $50,000 a year. It is very significant, depending on your term. These projects are immediately cash flow positive, right? So even if you were to enter into this project, right, the way that it works is the Power Authority covers all these costs, right? So what I'm requesting is that you agree and pass a resolution to enter into design with the Power Authority and sign the authorizations to proceed I sent for maintenance in the project. And the town should immediately, year one, see an annual positive cash flow of about $9,000. That's with recovering costs back to NYPA for putting all this forward. When that term period is up, depending on how long you determine that term would be, the total savings of that $44,000 plus goes directly to the town into perpetuity. So it is a long-term plan for significant savings, I'm sure, in comparison to what you're paying now. So that's essentially the 50,000 foot level presentation that I have on this project and how it works. And I would be more than happy to answer any and all questions that you may have.
Sure, thanks, Casey, for coming up. Listen, I've been interested in this project for 5 or 6 years now. We kicked it around, knowing it was, the timing was coming, then COVID hit. But years ago even, we're looking at the first LEDs that the Power Authority was wanting us to gravitate to. Basically, we had talked about lumens of different bulbs outside the district, you know, out in the darkness of our town, higher, lesser bulbs and less energy. But that doesn't apply anymore, right? It's basically, you can tone down the energy to the fixtures themselves and all.
So you can do a number of things. Right? One of the there's immediate and long-term value for these digital asset controls. The immediate value is that when you install them, you do not install them at 100% power. You install them at 80% power. If you don't have a digital asset controller, you can't do that. The reason that that's important is because there's no optical difference between 100% power and 80% power. You can go out into a parking lot. I've done this at Signify, formerly Philips, for this kind of technical event that I was at. You cannot tell the difference optically between the two. But what does happen is you elongate the lifespan of the assets from about 15 or 17 years to 25 to 30 years. So it's an immediate short-term and long-term benefit, not just the additional energy savings from reducing the power, but you elongate the value of the asset significantly. Right? With regards to lumens, you'd mentioned, right? So there's something called temperature Kelvin, right? An LED, what you have, like candlelight is 2,700 Kelvin, K, right? What you see here, lights like LED in a hospital would be like 4,000 Kelvin. We generally are in between with our LED lights at 3,000. Now, generally in a larger municipality, you would see 4,000, a brighter light in your downtown areas, in your commercial areas, in your industrial areas, and the 3,000 Kelvin in your residential areas or your outskirt areas. I don't think in a community like this, it would frankly make much of a difference. We would probably recommend 3,000 Kelvin. That's the color temperature of the bulb itself. That doesn't have anything to do with like the power output and how you can regulate how much actual kilowatts, how much energy is going into that individual light. So why would your lights be on at 100% power in your outskirts from 11 p.m. to 5 in the morning? There's no need. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of capital. You should be able at the click of a button to reduce power on an individual light basis, or someone who would have control, right? Someone in public works or facilities of some kind should be able to, like on his phone, whenever he wants to, reduce power to any fixture. And you can begin having that relationship, proactive relationship with your assets. And we've had folks that turn all lights down on Main Street for fireworks and parades. And there's an innumerable value, right, in things you can do. Some folks, don't see the value in it, although I do, and it's available to you. So I hope that's not, to make a short story long, that's the answer.
I'm a big fan of the digital management. So one of our people gets trained in using the system. He probably alerts them to outages if a car takes out a telephone pole.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that happens.
Oh, yeah. So that's all part of our maintenance program, right? So we have a full-blown maintenance program that the digital asset management controllers are kind of the brain. And I have a colleague named James, who his sole job is to manage the street lighting maintenance program and use that interface to proactively alert folks of these types of outages, right? So you'll be able to log in to a system and you'll have over across a tax map, right? The tax map of the town, you'll see all these little green dots, right? And those are all the operating nodes on all the lights, and everything's operating correctly. And you'll be able to start getting notification of outages, whether it's a pull down, whether a fixture is out, whether the LED driver is out. All of these are different scenarios that the system will proactively tell you once every 24 hours, right? So you'll get an email and text notification about the system, exactly where the location is, what light it is, right? So now you're thinking of, I would be thinking about additional costs. Like if you're going to do maintenance, if you're going to do of any kind, I'm sure anyone here in contracting will tell you costs are about truck rolls. Now, if you know up front all the information you need about that asset before you even leave, you're immediately saving additional funds there that I can't even capture in a utility assessment, right? So there are three different types of maintenance. There's routine, non-routine, and emergency, right? So what I'm showing in this analysis at $20 a fixture is routine maintenance. So you get unlimited routine maintenance for the duration of your contract. Right now, contracts our initial contracts are 2 years, and they're short because we want to make sure you like the service. You don't want to be in a long-term contract with an entity you've never worked with before, because why would you do that? We don't think you should do that, and we want to earn that business and enter into another contract after that.
And your track record is good with other municipalities?
Correct.
Stuff with you?
Yes, sir. So we have, as I'd mentioned about procurement, we competitively bid our maintenance contract statewide. And we originally did it regionally because we would be more responsive that way. We awarded that contract to an entity called EJ Electric. And we awarded them that contract for the entire state. And we did that because they were that good, just leaps and bounds above everybody else. And so once they received that contract award, they immediately began springing up satellite offices all across the state, right? So we would expect routine maintenance. Now, I don't know how often or how regular you feel National Grid responds to your outages. I have no idea what that relationship is like. What I do know is it's non-emergency lighting is not particularly high on the priority list. Right? They have very large, other assets that are higher on that list. So our maintenance program is essentially the following, right? Routine maintenance, which is unlimited. You would have that whatever outage is associated with routine maintenance would be up and running and fixed within 10 business days. Non-routine maintenance, which is something what I generally consider something weather related or accident related, like a known unknown. You don't know it. We know it's going to happen. I don't know when or how often. And the worse the weather, the more I consider non-routine maintenance to be a player. So up here, you might be considering non-routine maintenance. We expect non-routine maintenance, any and all non-routine maintenance issues to be handled within 30 business days. And that's because non-routine maintenance requires a customer approval. So we offer a suggested non-routine budget. However, we do not expect non-routine maintenance to be handled, or costs to be handled by the town. We expect those to be handled through appropriate insurances. So we offer you a budget as a suggestion for cash flow purposes only. Same thing with emergency maintenance. Emergency maintenance is when public safety is an issue. When, if you have down wires, if there's a transformer that's exploded, or any time that public safety is a concern, and that actually would have to come from the town. So when I see an outage on our user interface, I don't know if it's an emergency. We would need to know that from the town. But once we are notified, that site will be secured within 4 hours. Now, doesn't mean the light will be, if a pole goes down, the utility has to change that pole, and then we put the light up. But the site itself will be secured within 4 hours, and then we would follow the flow chart of the non-routine maintenance, where the remainder of the work would be done within 30 business days. So those are conservative estimates that we believe can be handled all across the state, no matter where our crew is coming from. So it's also important to know that when we pull our crews, we start from local houses, right? So the local electrical labor union that's in the area, we would pull from them first, so that as much work is done locally as possible, and then we kind of branch out from there. So I know that's important for folks to know. We like to make sure that that's just the realism of how business is done. We want to keep things as local as possible. So that's kind of the ins and outs of the routine of the maintenance program.
Your response time answered my question.
Rich, any questions?
I do have a couple of questions. Looking at your proposal, it looks like the break-even point is at just over 16 years with the savings, using the savings that you're projecting.
Correct. Yes. I believe that the payback period will be significantly less than that. And I believe that because I don't expect us to use the 10% contingency. I expect the purchase of the assets to drop from the 198,000 that I'm showing here down closer to 67,000 just from the data that National Grid provided in 2016. I mean, I don't think the assets have appreciated in value. Generally, they don't. And I'm also showing that 3% municipal bond. So all of those factors are pretty important in how long that payback period is. Again, this is about as conservative as possible.
So I would think that then from the 16 to the 25th year, assuming that what you're saying, it's a 25-year asset, the community is going to gain even better finances.
Correct.
What happens in 25 years? Are we going to have to replace them all?
Well, in 25 years, I mean, generally LEDs last about 25 years, right? So this is a once in a 25-year decision. I don't know what the technology marketplace is going to look like in 25 years. I don't think LEDs will be tremendously different. I do think the way you control LEDs will be different. That's by far the fastest growing market, is how you control these assets. LEDs have kind of been the way they've been for 30 or 40 years. So in 25 years, I would expect that someone else, maybe me, would be here and suggesting that it would be time to do another upgrade of your assets. Yes.
Just check with John.
I'll check with John.
The technology's gonna be 25 years back.
That's right. Things will be very different in 25 years. I used to work in a separate entity with the state in HVAC and lighting and motor systems. And nothing moves faster than lighting. And so 25 years, frankly, I would be lying if I told you I would knew what the marketplace would look like. It will be vastly different than it is today in the level of control. But LEDs are about as good as they get as far as lifespan and impact on your environment and savings.
Timeline is, do we proceed? How long does it take to get the project like this underway and complete?
If you folks passed resolution so there's 3 documents, and I realize I may have caused a little bit of confusion by sending the terms and conditions agreement electronically, sir, to your supervisor's email inbox without any warning. So there's 3 documents. There's the authorization to proceed for the actual project. And there's also the authorization for the maintenance, because they are separate. You don't have to do maintenance with us if you don't want to. You can feel free to do an RFP on your own if you want. And then there's something called the Master Cost Recovery Agreement, which is I would say, probably best reviewed by legal counsel. It is essentially, what's that? I did. Yeah. So it's called the MACRA, right, for short. And it's essentially terms and conditions agreement. It's the same document that goes out to every customer that I work with. It's an overarching capital project document. There's actually no street lighting language in the thing. If you look for any, you won't find any. It's not project specific. It's essentially a one-time signature that allows you to do any capital project with the Power Authority from now into perpetuity, right? And so every customer of ours signs it. And again, if there's any questions on it, obviously I've spoken to many legal reps and negotiated parts of those documents as they see fit, and we're very well versed in that. But it's about 40 pages and it's dreadful, right? So I'm sorry.
Ask a tough question.
Yes, sir.
I didn't have any time. I didn't do any research because I didn't know if they're actually going to consider going forward. We always wonder about public bidding. Do you fit in the category of a state agency?
Yes, sir.
So we don't have to worry about bidding because you're a fellow state agency.
Correct. It's called Public Authority Law 1005 that allows us the statutory authority to offer 1005. It allows us, it gives us the statutory authority to procure and provide energy services to all local governments and any business customer who purchases power from the Power Authority through an economic development program, which is not the case here. But those are the 2 demographics of entities that we have the statutory authority to work with.
I reviewed something very like that before, but I don't remember.
We
looked at this once last year.
You've had this, we've had this before. It's similar. I did some math on it once before, and we decided at the time it wasn't right. But with the interest rates, I'm borrowing as low as they are, and if we have to borrow for this project, and looking at the return on the investment, it looks like pretty good deal. The other thing was controlling the lights in different areas of town. We talked about that before, that we would control the areas, and if we wanted to increase the wattage or increase the candlelight, we can do that. If we want to decrease it at a certain hour, we could do that also. So we looked at this, and John's been after me, so it's on the agenda, and if the board wants to give us permission, I'll get it to the town attorney, and we'll read it over if you want to move forward with it. We vetted the numbers a couple times, and the savings is potentially up to about half of what we pay now per year.
And we'll proceed, sure.
We have a motion by John. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Rich to proceed. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Pam, we better do a roll call on this one.
Roll call.
Sure. Roll call.
Supervisor Garrity?
Yes.
Councilman Alexander?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And Rich Levin?
Yes.
Okay, I'll get this information to Bob, and if he has any concerns, Casey, we'll get to you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Yeah. The next step would be, what we would do is, once those documents are received, the project will be assigned through me to a contracting partner, and we'll begin the engineering design of the project. So any staff that you wanted present, what's called a design kickoff meeting, we can talk about that, but that would be the next step. You talked about timeline. If you don't mind, I'd like to mention the timeline of the project so you folks can get an idea of how long this is going to take. By far, the lengthiest administrative timeline for this is the purchase of the assets through the utility. So I don't believe the town has done this in a while, but we'll probably want to request an updated purchase price from National Grid. So I'll provide you language for that. They don't have to respond for 90 days. So they may wait to the 89th day. They might not, but let's just, again, for being conservative, at which point you can agree or disagree, but most likely it'll come in way less than what I'm thinking here, and it'll be agreeable. And then once you do that, National Grid has 45 days to submit that to the Public Service Commission. So then the Public Service Commission would need to approve that sale. It sounds like a little while, that administrative process, but frankly, while we're doing that in parallel is when we're doing our design with you folks. Right, so you folks are a part of that, right? We like to make sure nobody knows your town and your streets, your corners, your intersections like you do, right? So we would love it if there were some staff that would be a part of these conversations and these meetings to be able to talk to us about your problem areas, your dark areas, your overlit areas, if there are any, and we'll incorporate that into our design. So the idea is that when the Public Service Commission stamps that approval, we have a design ready and approved and waiting to go. So you'll receive what's called, lighting designs are very fast, right? So it'll go from design kickoff to 90% design, in a couple months. And so at which point you'll get that 90% design and you'll review it. And if everything is good, if you agree to our recommendations, then we would move to 100% design, and that design is what would be used for implementing the project. So depending on COVID, which has seemed to wreak havoc on supply chains, that would also play a role in when we would actually be getting boots on the ground and doing the beginning of the install. But I would imagine if we started this process, if I got those documents, this week, like we started soon, I would imagine that you would probably have LEDs up and running, if not, fourth quarter at the earliest, and the spring of next year at the latest.
Okay, good. Very good. Well, we'll be in touch. I'll work with the town attorney, and we'll get these documents.
Fantastic. Thank you, Greg, for your time.
Thank
It was
you,
a pleasure.
Casey.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah, we will. Yep. Yep, we got 30 days, we'll get it worked out. Yep. All right, moving right along with our agenda, a resolution ratifying the commencement of article of an action against Asheville Estate Holdings LLC. This action pertains to the Griswold property. We've been working on this for a while. And I just need a motion to approve that resolution and move forward. So we want to make that motion. John, second. Second by Rich. Any discussion? We'll do a voice vote on this. Okay.
Supervisor Gary,
Yes.
Councilman Alexander, Rounds,
Yes.
Deluxe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next will be a resolution advertised for proposal of consultant services to apply for housing rehabilitation grants and related activities. Response to the RFP is due back on Thursday, April 28th at 3:45 PM in the afternoon. Somebody want to make a motion to
I'll
proceed?
make that motion.
Motion by Rich,
Second.
second by John. Any discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, talked about the school program and the summer rec program. We'll be moving, as soon as we get more information, we'll get that out. And we are taking applications for anybody who wants to work at the summer rec program. Resolution request to make water rate changes to the following properties: 27 Hastings Street, 31 Hastings Street, 6 Oak Street, 29 Orton Drive, 3903 Main Street. The list is included in your agenda. And basically what we are is we're increasing these water rates. In most cases, the difference will be $393 more in collected for the water district. So somebody want to make a motion to approve these changes? Motion by Rich, second by John to approve the changes. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. I received a letter yesterday from the school wondering if they could hook into the county town sewer system on Horkin Avenue. I tried to get everybody on Horkin Avenue to hook into the system when the pipes were put in the ground. But I guess it's, the school may have to replace the septic system, which would be pretty expensive. So I went to the town engineers. They have studied the design of the current system and whether we could hook in, because it is a force main, not gravity feed main. And based on the engineering specifications that we have from the town engineer, yes, we could. We could take the school onto the force main. Obviously, they would have to pick up the cost of connection and all that. So I will have to go to the county and mention it to Warren County whether they want to allow somebody to go into that force main, because it is technically, it's a county project. And even though we have a contract with the county on that, because the sewage goes into our plan. So we're going to move ahead with that if the board is okay, and have the engineers do some more study. And I've told the school they should have their engineers dive into this and work with the town engineers to see if we can do it. And then I'll contact Kevin Hayjos at DPW saying this could potentially happen. I don't think it won't disrupt the service on Horkin Avenue, because it would be going from their property right out to the force main off of Horkin Avenue, and they'd have to pay for all that. They would need a pump station at the school to pump into our pipe, so.
Have we discussed the fee structure? What does that?
Not yet.
Are
We
they
haven't-
out of our district? They're not inside the district.
No, they're out, it would be an out-of-district contract, and potentially.
Instead of doing a sewer district extension, just with that.
I don't know if we want to, but, we could talk about that. Also, as we did with the Price Chopper project, they paid for capacity. So the contracts that we did for the other people out of district were favorable to the town. So this is very preliminary. I just found out about it a day or two ago, and I said we'd look into it. And I pushed our engineers to make preliminary calculations based on the pipe size and working with DEC, because, we need to work with DEC on that. So there's a lot of regulatory things we would have to pass. So, but we'll move ahead with it and see where we go. Also received a letter, a note from Anthony Fortino. He'd like to be considered as an alternate to the planning board. Somebody want to make a motion? Motion by Brian,
Second.
second by Rich to make Anthony Fortino an alternate to planning board. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, the next, cemetery. Now that we own the cemetery, we're responsible for the rules that clean up the cemetery. So by May 1st, we're asking people to please go in and if they have any Christmas decorations or anything left over from the winter season, to please pick them up by May 1st. After May 1st, the town custodian will make the cleanups on the graves in our portion of the cemetery. So we just ask everybody's cooperation. It's been pretty good so far. Also, I've had a request from the school to use the recreation field for graduation ceremonies again this year. The graduation ceremonies will be the 24th. That was very popular last year. They went to rec field because they didn't use the school district, and it was so popular they want to go back so they can have a nice view of the Three Sisters when they're doing that. And the school obviously sets it up, works with our recreation department, and so I'm pretty happy. The other thing the school has done, because we no longer host field hockey, we're taking the field hockey field that we maintain at the recreation field, and they're going to hopefully host some home soccer games. I think they're still, I'm not sure if they're still combined with Bolton Landing. I think they are. So it would be good that we have some home soccer games here in Warrensburg. So, and the fields are almost ready for the Little League. I think they'll be getting, they started already. Right. So our fields are in good shape, and they actually will get tons and tons of use as soon as this weather breaks, which is hopefully this month. So that's it on that. I do have a couple of budget modifications tonight. They're in your packet. First one is taking money out of contingency, $838.58 out of contingency, and transferring into the insurance account to cover the cost of our property and casualty insurance in the general fund. And the second one is a general fund taking $550 out of buildings contractual and moving into buildings fuel oil, which hopefully we won't have much more of that, but that's with the cost of fuel oil going up. We got banged here at the town hall this year. And the next budget transfer would be from cemetery fund. It went from cemetery contractual to cemetery unemployment to pay for our custodian who drew unemployment this winter. And that is the amount of $1,520.70 for the unemployment benefits. So motion to approve the modifications. Somebody?
So made.
Rich and John, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed. Bills on warrant number 4. Total warrants tonight are $104,520.81. The general fund is $44,413.13. Cemetery fund is $1860.93. Highway fund is $25,034.53. Lighting district was $9,220.56. Sewer district was $14,522.77. And the water fund was $9,468.89. So motion to approve warrant number 4 by Rich. Second by Brian. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, I'll open the floor up. Anybody who would like to comment on anything that we went over tonight, or just any topic whatsoever. The floor is open. So please come up and just state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Shelby Burkhart. I am the new library director at the Richards Library. I just wanted to let you know that we are currently offering monthly story times and bi-weekly stretching for teens. We post upcoming programs to our website, our Facebook page, and in the library as well. And I also would like to say that this May, with the aid of an ALA grant, that we will be hosting community conversations to help expand the resources that we are offering to our young adults and also gather interest from all ages for future programs. So additional details will be coming soon. Thank you.
Shelley, we
Yes.
really appreciate that you've opened the library up and made it available to residents. I know it's been a rough couple of years over there too.
Yes, but things seem to be smoothing now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight? Any topic? No?
Yes.
You step up, state your name.
Of course. Good evening. Gary Cooper,
Warrensburg resident for over 30 years. I have a couple questions in regards to the cemetery. When Pete Haggerty maintained it, or whatever his organization was, we were able to go in there. And some people may or may not celebrate death. In my religion, Catholic, Orthodox, we celebrate death. Okay, so I've been in there quite a few times this year, and our cemetery was not plowed out because it's been turned over to the town. Maybe the town don't want to do it, or they're too busy. I don't know. I've went in there with my V-plow. Charlie Fittipaldi's been in there with his V-plow for us to clear out so we can go in there and celebrate the death of our lost ones. I just want to know if that is going to be the statue of our winners.
Can I answer that?
Yes, go ahead, John.
When it was the Cemetery Association, I was the president for 30 years. My son and I plowed out the circle from the receiving vault to the middle gate. To put deceased waiting for burial in the receiving vault. Just one loop. We do not encourage, we discourage people to use their own vehicles, and now it's town property, using their own plow trucks when you damage a stone, we don't want any problems. And I don't want that to happen. And I've addressed perhaps even chaining off the cemetery, as other towns do, because if haphazardly people start plowing on
Understand.
property that they don't own, and there's a lot of liabilities with headstones that you don't see in 4 feet of snow, that's a concern. So I know that Chuck reached out to us and said, we want to have a celebration, and we were under supervision once, just do it once, and that's when it got down to the bike repair lots. But once again, I discourage that behavior from happening here.
I respect that, John. Mr. Alexander, I respect that. But in my 30 years here, and I've buried many in our cemetery, we never had an issue until the last year. Now we've cleaned and plowed our area, our driveway, to get our family members and friends to go in there to celebrate the death of ones we've lost. Only in the last year and a half. We never had to do this before. And I don't know why.
We've never plowed that road we've never plowed that one road area, not where you are.
Always has been.
I've been here. So.
I know. I understand.
People walked into snowshoes, but we never plowed that one. I'm in the same neighborhood.
I know. I know.
But that road's never been plowed. The circular drive, people can pull in there.
And it's getting bigger and bigger. I understand that, but we've never had the issue. I just brought it to the attention. I'd like to know, due to the fact that a town took it over.
I don't discourage private individuals from plowing cemetery. That's my opinion.
Which I discourage as well.
Yeah.
But when I need to celebrate my mother-in-law's death, I think you need to be able to go get in there. You can't have 4 feet of snow. It needs to be maintained. I mean, the Catholic side, and that's the Catholic side, was never even looked at this winter. Now, I don't know why, but
it's not, and once again, it's not the whole side of cemetery, it's not the Catholic side. There's one little section of that side is the Catholic side.
okay, well,
We'll take it under.
but look at it. I'm just,
We will look at it.
no disrespect to anybody on the board. I'm just saying, please.
Yep, it's
Just
learning
look
curve
at
for us.
One more thing. Casey was here.
Yeah.
And he was talking to us about our lighting. We have 409 fixtures operating in the hamlet of Warrensburg. Am I correct?
In the lighting district.
In the lighting district. I would really like to know how much, because I wrote down all of his dollar amounts, which is questionable. How much would this community, the taxpayers that are sitting here right now, would be saving to go and turn everything into LED? Or if we could just relax and let it be. I would like to know, and I'm looking at all of his numbers he was throwing out at the board as well as our community. I would like to know how much money he's saving us, actually, because he's saying by 2023, we could be saving over $40,000 to community. Are we really spending that much annually? Or could you and hire people in our town to change the bulbs to LED without hiring Casey and his people? We can't do it?
We don't own it. We don't own them. Not even Mohawk.
What's that?
They belong to National Grid. The streetlights belong to National Grid.
So Casey is part of National Grid, or is he the other source of National Grid? Just asking. I don't know.
They have a contractual, they would have a contractual agreement with the power company. If the power company doesn't want to do it. Now, the power company also could come back to us with a presentation and say they switch them over, which they told us before they were going to switch them over to LEDs. They haven't done that yet.
Right.
I'd have to do some more ciphering before I could sit here and say, I'm basing it on the information we had before, and I did do some work on it before, and I believe we'll save the money.
So I'm thinking that National Grid is the delivery, and Casey would be the utility to service, correct?
We would own the fixtures.
Correct.
Right now, National Grid owns the fixtures.
What's it going to cost for this community, the taxpayers, to own the fixtures?
Based on information I got around,
They've been there a long time, so they should already be paid for.
$587,000 total cost of the project. And then when you look at the savings on that, it should be a payback around 10 to 15 years.
Thank you.
Now, LED is the way to go, Gary.
I understand. My house is LED. My RV's LED. I understand that.
Anybody else tonight wish to address the board? No? Gabe, how did we do for you? Do we give you enough information tonight? Thank you. And Gabe is going for his Eagle Scout award, so we appreciate that. Nobody else? Okay, motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Thanks very much.